Man, the construction, manufacturing ecosystem is stressed out. There's a lot going on in the world of construction management and manufacturing and supply chain we were talking about last week as well. There's a lot of stuff going on. There is high demand. There are labor shortages kind of across the board. There are supply chain issues. There is supply and price of supply volatility. So all these things that are up in the air that are creating this perfect storm of stress. There are a lot of industries where that's happening. You see, we talked a couple months ago with Mike Doble from Explorium. The restaurant industry is stressed out right now. Wherever you see high demand, labor shortages, and supply chain issues, there's stress. Those are some hard industries to be a part of. Educators, public school educators, my goodness, that's a stressed out ecosystem as well. There's a lot of stress going on overarchingly in our economy, in our nonprofit world, in our government programs, whatever you name it. There's just a lot of stress. And so the construction manufacturing world, it is Construction Manufacturing and Supply Chain Month here at the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce, is no exception, right? So understanding the state of the construction manufacturing, and in specific today, construction ecosystem is really important for all of us, as if you're a consumer or if you're a business owner. And I think a unique way to approach that and to view that is to see how the human aspect, to see how the players in the construction world are coping, are adapting, are dealing with the stresses of what our economy and supply chain looks like right now. This is a big thing. And can you picture construction, manufacturing? Can you picture that world being a place that traditionally is open to discussing mental health concerns like stress, like anxiety, like depression? Probably not. But it's becoming more common, is my understanding. We're going to learn more about that today. How open dialogues about mental health in the construction manufacturing ecosystem is really it's allowing them to adapt and evolve and overcome. And today, a good friend of ours from a great company, Altius Building Company, they're awesome. He'll tell you all about it. Kalib Hrbacek he's subject matter expert. He's a guy that knows about all this stuff. So he's going to talk about the state of construction manufacturing, what's causing these stressors, and how this industry is evolving and adapting and overcoming. We're going to get into all that cool stuff. This is a really interesting topic. You're going to want to hang in there for this one and throw some comments so we can engage. But we're going to get all into all of this good stuff right after this. That song gets me pumped up every time. Before I dive into this topic, I have to remind all of you, folks, we have a very important, very spectacular event coming up for all of you here in the southeastern Wisconsin area. The 2021 Wisconsin Veterans Business Conference, brought to you by PenFed. Holy cow. This event's going to be great. It looks like it's going to sell out. Over 100 exhibitors. We got 3 breakout rooms with 3 sessions in each one. We got Darren College of Green Bay Packers acclaim is going to be a keynote speaker. We got General Williams coming out from the East Coast to speak at our lunch. I mean, this event is going to be slamming. Y'all need to get tickets because this thing is going to sell out. So I'm throwing into the comments right now a link to go register, and it's probably not going to pop up in LinkedIn because it just doesn't like cooperating with me. So while we're chatting later, I'm going to throw the link to register. If you want to get an exhibitor table, you got to hurry. We're like 80% sold out or 70% sold out. If you are looking to get an all access pass, I'd hurry. We're just under 70% sold out. It's a full day event. It's going to be a hootenanny. That's what we do around here is we do hootenannies. Here I am throwing the comments in LinkedIn. Please click on that and register right away. I don't want you to miss out on the opportunity to network, to have a great educational, informative experience, or to showcase your business or brand. So sign up today. Go do it. I don't know what you're waiting for. You're probably waiting to hear us talk about a very interesting topic. Introducing our good friend Kalib. Kalib, my friend, how are you?
Good morning.
Good morning. Dude, I learned so much just from like emailing back and forth, folks. We were talking about like, hey, it's construction, manufacturing, supply chain month. Kalib, what do you got? I know you're a guy that knows your stuff. I want to feature you. And he came out with this list of things that are going on. I had no idea. So Kalib, why don't you tell us a little bit? Let's start with what is Altius? What do you do with them? And then let's dive into the state of the construction ecosystem.
Sure. So Altius Building Company, I am the chief estimator there. We specialize in multifamily housing, senior living, that kind of stuff. We are currently working in Muskego, Brown Deer, Bayshore, Pewaukee Lake. We're kind of spread out all over the place in Southeast Wisconsin, and we cover a lot of needs. We do everything from multifamily and senior living, like I said before, and TI build out stuff for office improvements, kind of everything that you can think of. We've been there, done that, and have the t-shirt for it.
There you go.
So no, best in class, in my opinion. And so that's why I'm here and talking about what we are doing in the industry and kind of honing in to the industry about labor shortages, material shortages, supply chain issues, all that kind of stuff, and how all of that big picture relates to mental health. Mental health is now a really big thing in construction. A lot of people, don't really associate the two things together because, the construction workers are tough and resilient and, they never fail. They never do anything wrong. They just go to work every day. Well, that's changing. The industry is changing, and people are just starting now to see how big of a deal it is in construction.
Right on. So it's a perfect time for the construction industry to start having these conversations because mental health issues aren't new.
Right.
Perhaps we've just reached a breaking point with the way the industry is right now. So you mentioned labor shortages, you mentioned supply chain. Talk us through the state of the industry right now. Why are things so volatile and stress inducing right now in the construction world?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. I don't think the podcast is quite long enough for that. But, some of the things that, talking to the staff at Altius and the project managers and the senior people here who deal with this stuff every day, where do we want to start? Want to start with the labor shortage? We can start there. There's reports out there that since COVID hit and now that we're kind of regenerating from COVID, there's still 238,000 open construction industry jobs that aren't being fulfilled. Those are kind of
nationwide?
Nationwide, yeah, in the U.S.
Why do you think that is?
Well, there's a lot of reasons.
I'm sure there's more than one contributor, I'm sure.
Right. And, the weird part is you can't snowball everything into one category and say, this is happening because of this one thing. It's a plethora of things. You have the younger generation coming into it. If you take a look at the younger generation, it being in the trades, a lot of people just go, well, the younger generation, they don't want to work. But they do want to work, but they learn from their parents who learn from their parents. And it's kind of a trickle down effect of people wanting to work smarter and not so much harder. And so that's part of it. But if you look at different schools, like just generally in Wisconsin, looking at how schools are implementing trade services, so like shop class, that's gone away in most of the schools in the area. And that was always a really good introduction to the trades. Working with wood, you don't really see that anymore. But one thing you don't see, kind of turning the table on who's responsible for it is there's not a heck of a lot of people reaching out to talk about what are trades doing to get in front of high schoolers, to get in front of these people that we're going to need. So the big push, from high schools is to send people to college, get them their college degree. That's what schools are set up for. There's not a lot of schools that are really showing both sides of that coin, that, hey, if you do go into the trades, or, you can go to college, but if you get into the trades, here are all the endless opportunities that you can have by going into trade work.
So what you're saying is construction has a branding issue? Are you saying that big construction needs to get on a PR campaign and start generating interest among younger potential entrants into the industry? Is that there's just a lack of
right.
understanding or interest?
Well, I don't know if there's maybe a lack of understanding. A lot of people, the first thing they go to is the wages. Hey, let's look at a journeyman electrician versus a blue collar office worker. They're making the same money, and the electrician works 40 hours a week for the union. Okay, that's great. A lot of people will flock to that because money rules the world. But look at all the other benefits you get from both sides of that table too. So there's a lot more that could be said by the trades to lure these people in, to show them the benefits of being in a trade organization. In talking with my controller, Darren Smith, for Altius Building Company, the NSCA, the National Systems Contractors Association, has a program called Ignite. And so the NSCA focuses on low voltage systems in buildings, AV, audio, that kind of thing. And with this Ignite program, they're reaching out to develop younger generations in communication technology. And so they've made this organization to get out in front of people. And so I would think that you're going to start seeing a trend with this labor shortage of companies getting more and more outside the box to think about, how can we get in front of these people? What can we show them? How can we entice them to look this way instead of just going to a college and trying to figure it out?
Because that's what they're supposed to do. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So potential interest issue with Gen Z and younger. You mentioned wages, but my understanding is that the wage situation for the trades is exceptionally competitive.
Absolutely. The problem with that is everyone just looks at the money, and you have to remember it's multifaceted. So you can use the money as a draw, but I firmly believe that if these companies and these trades would show them, hey, after 5 years with us, here's what you're going to be capable of, and here's what's going to be expected of you. Show them that growth that comes with it. Because money on the younger generations, they care about it, but they want to work smarter, not harder. So show them what can happen if they put in a little effort up front. Don't show them what they're going to make right out of high school. Show them what they can make 10, 15 years down the road if they stay in the trades, and show them the benefits that come with all of that.
That's a really good point, and a parallel that we had started to see in the millennial generation and tenfold in the younger generation. A parallel to the military community at large is they love seeing a transparent pay scale and progression plan. Military folks, because they're used to it, they know that their pay raises are going to come at 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years. And then as they, step up, they know what everybody's making to their left and their right based on their rank and their time in service or whatever. And so that's attractive for military folks coming out of the military. Like, here's your progression plan. Here's where you can start. This is paid training. You make this, and then in 4 years you make X. And that is something that the companies that understand that is almost a prerequisite for mid-age millennials and younger, and people that are just entering the workforce. Those are the people that take advantage, that are able to hire those quality folks. I think that's a really good point, having that transparency.
Yeah, you gotta open up a little bit so people can see down the road, and not just here's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah, right on. So we've got wages, which is largely a myth because it's competitive. The idea that you're going to be breaking your back for peanuts is just not accurate. We got potential lack of interest, maybe because of that. So sounds like construction just needs to get the word out and get on a PR campaign and get people motivated and interested. Potentially it'll come at the schools, from the schools and from people that are working in the industry now. What about the people that are in it? Like, obviously we got labor shortage issues. They can't hire young people. They can't hire new people. They have all these open positions. So the people that are in it are getting their butts kicked right now because they're working longer hours. They're working harder. They're having to pick up the slack, doing more with less, generally speaking. So what is adding to that? Because that alone would be stressful. What is adding to that? You mentioned supply chain. You mentioned some other issues. What's volatility in pricing? So what's adding to that?
Yeah. So, with the labor shortage, the guys that you do have to work harder and longer to pull the slack for the company. I mean, kind of project wide, we're feeling a big burn of the labor shortage. There's just not enough people to go around. There's really no industry that wasn't hit by it. Talking with our director of project management this morning, Brandon Appleby, he said he heard this morning that the trucking industry in the United States has an 80,000 truck driver shortage.
Wow.
So there's a logistical nightmare in itself, just looking at that kind of thing. Anything overseas is stopped at the ports. You're seeing the ships parked outside of ports and ports being understaffed. Manufacturing slowdowns, because they just don't have the capability with short staff. You're seeing all this compound itself into kind of like the perfect storm of people burning out quickly. And that's kind of where you're seeing the culmination coming to a point. And the point is the mental health of everyone that's having to pull the slack and keep the machine moving while you wait for reinforcements.
Well, and burnout doesn't exactly help your labor shortage issues either.
No, exactly.
If somebody hits the wall and they get injured or they need to take a break or something, I mean, that just further compounds the stress, like you said. It sounds like a lot of it is coming down to labor, from the labor issues that are impacting supply chain and everything in between. So we have all these stressors. We have supply chain volatility, we have pricing volatility. There is high demand right now for building. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's right. You're seeing a little more adaptive reuse than new construction as people try to figure out how to save some money. But there's still a bunch of reports saying that multifamily and residential is still going to eclipse last year and the year prior. So that sector's still growing.
You're talking about new building in residential?
New building.
Okay.
Yep, new buildings, new construction, that kind of thing. But there has been, since COVID hit, a kind of just a little bit of paradigm shift to adaptive reuse. So finding a building that, was once industrial or office space or whatever, and turning that back into apartments for people. A lot of stuff that we're seeing now, affordable housing is really getting a leg up on the competition as people try to navigate COVID, this back half of COVID and figure all that stuff out as well. So we're seeing kind of a pickup in new building, multifamily, new construction ground up, adaptive reuse, like I talked about. And both of those areas kind of touched on by affordable housing as well.
Sure. And adaptive reuse, it appears as if there's no ceiling to where that market can go, especially considering that there is a bit of an exodus from office buildings and multi-unit shopping centers like malls and especially downtown malls. The mall downtown in Milwaukee is being repurposed. I'm pretty sure there's apartments in it right now. Do you see that changing anytime soon, or is it just like off to the races, wild, wild west in adaptive reuse?
No, I think as rents go up, you're going to see people start floating out of downtown, the urbanites coming out of downtown, looking for stuff in the suburban areas. I mean, all that kind of stuff is documented. Everyone knows that that's happening while the rents go through the roof. People look at, well, I can afford a house for what I'm paying in rent. And so they'll go and buy the house in the suburbs. So as people move out of downtown and you start seeing people take different jobs outside of downtown and, these buildings start opening back up, they don't want to sit on an empty building. That's not good for anybody. So, these people are looking at, okay, I either own a building or can purchase a building. It's all there. I just need to turn it into what I need to turn it into.
Right.
And these are becoming more and more abundant as people, work from home is a big one. You've heard of whole offices shutting down because they figured out their staff can work from home.
Right.
So these kinds of things are going to start turning around. You're going to see a lot of it coming up in the next few years. I guarantee it.
Interesting. So clearly demand is not an issue. I'm sure your books are just packed to the margins here.
Yeah.
How far out? Let's say I want to build a house. Let's say I say, Kalib, I want to build a house. Let's build that house. What does a lead time look like for that, for you guys to even break ground on something like this right now?
Well, we don't do residential, but we just upscale that. So let's call it a townhome. You want to build a small townhome. Sure.
Yeah, there you go.
I mean, we're seeing crazy lead times. Garage doors, particular garage doors at 23 weeks. We're seeing steel at 14 weeks. Bar joists and decking for if you're going to have a large industrial roof is anywhere from 12 to 14 months. That's over a year out.
Wow.
And LEDs, anything that kind of comes from overseas is, at least 5, 10, 15 weeks out at least. So what we're trying to do and how Altius is kind of combating that is when we're awarded a project, we'll begin discussions with the owner. Here are the long lead time items. Let's make all of our decisions about those items, whatever they are, and see if we can contract for those items up front so we can get them rolling while we figure out the rest of the stuff that isn't so crazy on lead times.
Interesting. Like contract it out with somebody that may already have the capabilities or the supply, you mean?
No, I mean, contract it to us, award, say, okay, Altius Building Company, we've given you this project, and we give you the responsibility and go ahead to secure these long lead time items now. And while we chase the rest of the building and design choices and flooring and stuff like that we can readily get, the long lead time items like HVAC air controllers or LED lighting or structural steel, all of that stuff could be combined up front or in a separate contract even to get the ball rolling, to make sure that we're not eating a large lead time or eating any more construction inflation as we wait for this stuff to roll in.
Right. Wow. So what do you think the solution is? Like if we can't get steel shipped from overseas for 12 months, is the solution more stateside construction or more stateside manufacturing, or are they having the same sort of labor issues?
There's quite a bit of the same issues being reverberated throughout the entire industry. So there really is no one catch-all fix. But what we've tried doing and what I've tried doing as a chief estimator is let's look at systems that we don't typically use, number one. Number two, that our suppliers recommend, because we try to know everything about the construction industry, right? But the people actually bidding the work and the subcontractors that have boots on ground, they know. And they know if there's a workaround or if there's not. So we rely heavily on our subcontractors to keep us up to date, informed. Hey, I heard this. Hey, I heard that. I had a roofing contractor call me last week and said, I hope you're not doing flat roofs next year because the tapered insulation for a flat roof may not be available next year from any provider.
Wow.
Oh, okay. So we make notes and then we try to see what we can change and see how we can adapt to these circumstances and work around them.
It sounds like sounds nuts. Just sounds like everybody top to bottom just has a lot to juggle here. And obviously, I definitely want to make sure we talk about the mental health portion.
Absolutely.
It's obviously creating stressors in an industry where you mentioned earlier, it's not necessarily it's kind of been taboo to, everybody in construction's tough and, they get their work done and they don't complain. And, maybe talking about mental health on the job site isn't something that people can picture or visualize, but you're saying the paradigm is shifting. What do you think has led into that? And how do you think it's helping everybody evolve and kind of cope and overcome?
So I get, if we start with just the stats, right? In the US, there's 3 fatal accidents per day in the construction industry. Just accidents, just fatal, kind of blanket statement, non-suicide deaths in construction.
Holy cow.
So 3 a day compared to 15 suicides a day in the construction industry.
Whoa.
And this information is from Marsh & McLennan. They are our safety provider at Altius Building Company. Bruce Morton is the head of that, and gave me this information to share. And this is something that we actually covered last week. We had a Altius all-staff meeting and went over these numbers, and it's crazy. You don't think about it until you see the numbers, and then you start thinking about it, and it's impressive in a bad way.
Yeah. I mean, that's up there with the number of daily veteran suicides there are coast to coast, you know, and that's a huge issue. I mean, I had no idea.
Yeah. So, you know, the EHS is reporting that there's 60% of construction workers reported struggling with mental health, but only a third said that they would go and do something about it or communicate it even to their employer.
Wow.
You know, and then the CDC says the construction workers are 4 times more likely than any other sector of labor to commit suicide. I mean, it's
that's
crazy.
insane.
Just how much of that, all of this is adding up.
Yeah. So what's the solution then? You said only a third are willing to actually open up and express that they're having issues. What do you do? What's happening?
So there's three main facets we need to focus on. Number 1 is educate. Number 2 is increase awareness. And number 3 is look for signs and keep the door open. So number 1 is educate. You have to tell people, you know, here's what depression looks like. Here's what burnout looks like. Here's what this kind of stuff looks like. You know, you got to show them, you know, here's what this stuff all looks like. So someone can identify it. It might not be you identifying it within yourself, but if you go, oh, hey, you know, last week Joe was happy. This week Joe has been acting really weird and down and sad.
Yeah.
He's probably just having a bad week, you know, whatever. No. Go talk to him. You know, increase the awareness, you know, share these numbers within the industry. You know, these are mind-blowing numbers. It's going to catch the attention of everyone in the industry when it's said. So get out there and start saying it. Don't treat it like a taboo topic. Make it an open portion of discussion. You know, force the issue of bringing it up and identifying all these issues that are in mental health in construction.
Yeah, if you had somebody on a job site with a broken hand, with a bone sticking out of his hand, trying to hammer something in, you would be like, dude, stop. You're gonna
Right.
You're gonna hurt yourself. You're clearly injured. You need to take a step back. We need to get this looked at. And framing mental health similarly and educating people about the fact that there's nothing wrong with you. And everybody goes through this to varying degrees. You're not alone. Educating folks of that and having them frame it in a way that it's like a physical injury. It's just something we got to get you taken care of, or you could injure yourself or worse. You know, I think it's super important. That education part is a crucial first step. You nailed it.
Yeah, no, and it's really just removing the stigma from it. If you make it a part of your everyday talk, the stigma with it starts going away.
Right.
And so how do you talk about it every day without being awkward, right? One thing that Altius Building Company is doing is Toolbox Talks. That's our morning meeting talk, you know, where you gather your guys up and talk about the day and safety, have a safety brief kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's Toolbox Talks that focus on mental health now. And so instead of talking about, you know, when you're hammering a nail, don't hold it with your fingers. You know, now it's, hey, if you realize some of these, you know, issues with somebody, or you see someone acting funny being X, Y, and Z,
right?
Go talk to here's how to talk to them. Here's how to open that door. Here's how to be receptive if you hear something without being overbearing. You know, there's all kinds of stuff out there. And I know Bruce Morton, you know, he's on the chat as well. Great
asset. Said hi. Thanks for your comment, Bruce.
Yep. Great asset to have. And, you know, feel free to reach out to everyone around you and get in the know.
So step one is that education.
Yep.
And so then what's the next step?
Increase awareness.
Okay. Oh yeah, and we kind of touched on that as well.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
And then
So-
look for the signs and keep the door open.
They in the Air Force, it was, I remember my old CBTs, the ACE, ask, care, escort. And one of the, pun intended, one of the best tools in my toolbox that has enabled me to be able to assess whether or not somebody is having a crisis or an issue is the ask portion of that. Like, are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you in danger right now? It's an awkward thing to ask every time. But you could save a life by asking, and then if somebody says, yeah, I'm having some issues here, then you don't leave their side. You escort them. You ask, you care, you escort. I'm sure it was different in all the other branches, but that's what we had.
No,
oh, really?
I'm pretty sure that was Army wide, because in the Army we got that as well. So
okay,
we had to carry the ACE card. If you saw somebody, you pull out the ACE card and just read off the back.
Mm-hmm. Right on.
But so yeah, I mean, very similar in construction though. Just don't be afraid to ask, because 100 times out of 100, I would rather look stupid asking someone that doesn't need help than brushing it off and having something bad happen.
Is there like a nonprofit? And if there's not, maybe you should be the one to launch this thing. A nonprofit devoted to mental health and suicide awareness in the trades?
I'm not aware of a nonprofit that does that. For veterans, we obviously have the Captain John D. Mason program, the veteran outreach program there through the Medical College of Wisconsin.
There's a ton.
And I'm vice president of the Nom Knights Bruce City chapter.
Yep, that's right.
Law enforcement motorcycle club that works, hand in hand with the John D. Mason program. So there's tons of stuff for vets,
right?
And that, but there isn't too. I'm sure there's some. But I have not heard of a direct nonprofit agency that serves suicide prevention and awareness in the construction industry yet.
You may be somebody. If that exists, throw it in the comments.
Yeah,
but
please,
if not,
we
might be onto something here, because obviously you look back to the statistics that you shared with us at the beginning. This is an issue. I mean, the deaths on site, and then also the suicides.
Right.
Huge issue. And obviously the deaths on site, the accident-based ones, probably have a huge reverberating impact on the mental health of everybody working around them as well.
Right.
So
absolutely.
I think, mental health awareness in construction manufacturing seems like a really, really important issue that folks need to be aware of and talking about. So what's your vision? Let's say, like, a perfect world. In a perfect world, Kalib has, let's say you've created that nonprofit. Let's just say, what has that nonprofit accomplished? I mean, are we talking like zero construction manufacturing suicides? That's the vision.
Well, I mean, any improvement would be better over 15 a day.
Right.
And I think if I were to have this nonprofit, it would be all about awareness and tools to combat it. That, no one, look at us right now. We're talking about an agency that doesn't exist. And even if it does exist, I don't know about it.
Right.
So there's the first problem. And number two is, we got to be able to remove the stigma. How do we do that? Talk about it more. Just keep talking about it. Make it a comment that comes up at every meeting. Make it a point that comes up at every job talk. Don't force it down anyone's throat by any means.
Right.
But
it's a sensitive thing to talk about always.
Right, but make it not so sensitive. Just make it an open arena for discussion.
Right.
Because if someone can feel more comfortable, they'll feel more comfortable reaching out, and then you start saving lives.
Darn right. Well said. Well said, Kalib. This has been really educational for me. I've learned a ton. I feel like we could talk about this for a couple hours, but it's about that time. And so appreciate you for sharing your time, your expertise. I appreciate Altius for sharing you with us. And do you have any closing thoughts that you want to throw out at everybody here that's watching?
No, I guess we've kind of covered everything. We got to remove the stigma from mental health. I mean, in general, be it in any industry.
Absolutely.
Between veterans, between construction workers, between everybody around here, start talking about it, start asking questions, and be an advocate as best you can.
They need more like tough looking bearded guys like us talking about mental health. That's what they need.
That's what they need. I'm telling you.
Oh, we have one comment here. Scott says it's our charge as employers to compete for talent by evolving industrial norms to adapt to our most capable workforce's desires and empowering them to drive us forward. Cool story. Appreciate you watching there, sir. Good stuff. Kalib, I'll ask you to hang on the line for just a minute while I close things out, and I'll touch base with you here at the end. Man, that was super informative, super cool. I mean, obviously, it's a very sobering topic. It's a very important topic, one that I didn't know anything about. I'm going to go look right now to see if there's a national nonprofit to raise awareness for mental health in the trades. Because if there's not, that absolutely should be a thing. Because 15 a day is staggering. So if you know somebody that's in that industry, if you know somebody that's in any industry, ask, care, escort. Don't be afraid. Don't be fearful. Don't have trepidation. I think that's the word. Don't be hesitant to ask that question. Are you okay? Are you unsafe right now? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Are you in danger? You could save a life. I know I've been there in situations where somebody said, yeah, I need help right now. Okay, come with me. Be that change you want to see. Like we said, more, I don't care how tough you think you are or how tough you think you look or whatever your aura or vibe is. There's nothing braver or stronger or tougher than coming out and asking that question and being there for a friend or a colleague. So this has been super informative. Again, thanks to Kalib and thanks to Altius. This has been just great. We're continuing Construction Manufacturing Month. Next week, same time, same place, every single week. Office Hours Live brought to you by your best friends here at the Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. 11:30 a.m. on Wednesday. We'll see you next week.